to the Amaro Montenegro UK National Final 2022, the Vero Bartender. Make some noise, please, for who is in the room. Oh, there we go. We can hear some energy. So, welcome everybody. Judges, competitors. I have next to me the first competitor that I will introduce in a second later. I feel the energy is fantastic. So let me introduce you what does it mean the Vero Bartender as meaning. Vero translated means true. True as the authenticity of the brand Amaro Montenegro, and also is true because of the energy that the company put in the bars. This year, 2022, the topic is sharing the essence. What does it mean? It means that the competitors, the finalists, they have to introduce a specific journey that inspired them. And then we share this journey in their drinks. So this year, maybe we are going to have the global winner from UK. Let me introduce quickly the judges. Just a quick hello. Starting from the former winner, Cristiana, 2019. Make some noise. Give a round of applause. Thank you. Next to Cristiana, we do have industry legend, Alex Ratena. Representing the brand, global brand ambassador, Amaro Montenegro, Rudy Carraro. Last but not the least, also representing the main partner of the competition from class, Ami Smith. Also, I would like to say a quick thank you and hello to Gary from Cocktail Lovers. Thank you for being here. Right, now it's time to leave the stage to the first competitor. Emilio, with his drink called Pilgrimage to Bologna, from Perth in Scotland, American bar, Gleneagles. Welcome on stage. Emilio.
Ladies and gents, good afternoon. As you heard, my name's Emilio. I'm from the American bar at Gleneagles. I'm super excited today to introduce to you my cocktail pilgrimage to Bologna. Now, inspired by a journey, I thought I would look at an ancient route, an ancient journey that has been travelled for hundreds, if not thousands of years. This journey starts in Canterbury and finishes in the Vatican. Such a long journey, however, I thought I would concentrate it down to the last leg. Now, this journey is called the Via Francigena. It's a pilgrimage, as I said, starting in Canterbury and finishing down in Rome. Now, the last leg, in particular, I'm looking at the Italian regions that we passed through. I saw that we're allowed 5 ingredients, and I had to include an ingredient from each region. Now, we start with our vessel. The first region of Italy that we pass into, we pass through the Alps, and we find ourselves in Valle d'Aosta. Beautiful, mountainous, incredible part of the world, full of fantastic traditions. Now, a tradition at the end of a meal is that a grolla is passed around with a hot cocktail inside, often with coffee, touch of lemon, some sugar, and grappa. Now, today I'm looking at something a little colder, a little more chilled, but I want to create our sharing cocktail served by the grolla. Now, the grolla is also called Coppa dell'Amicizia, cup of friendship, and I take it you guys are all friends? Good start. So, we move down into Piemonte. We look at our first ingredient. Now, Piemonte is famous for many things, but one of the ingredients I'm looking for is hazelnuts. Huge, huge sweetness, incredible nuttiness, and I'm using a noisette liqueur to represent Piemonte. 10 ml per serve. Next, we move even further south. We move to my country, my region of origin. I'm from Parma originally, and I'm so happy to share the same region as Amaro Montenegro itself. We have Emilia Romagna, and we go with 35 ml per serve. Next, we move onto my mother's region of choice. She is from a small town called Barga, known as the most Scottish town in Italy. Of course, Tuscany, famous for incredible wine. I've gone for a grappa from my very favourite winery, which is Tignanello, but I've infused it with porcini from Emilia Romagna as well. Again, let's go with 15 ml per serve. Finally, we move into Rome. My favourite dish coming from Rome is the saltimbocca. The saltimbocca is very, very heavy on sage, so I thought sage had to make an inclusion in our cocktail. We've made a very basic sage stock to add a beautiful herbaceousness to our drink. Now, as I'm sure you've noticed, 3 very, very different flavour profiles. We have nuttiness with the noisette, we have a savoury umami with the porcini, and we have a herbaceousness with the sage. Now, being a sharing cocktail, it's often that everyone drinking it drinks the same exact cocktail. Now, I wanted to personalise it for each and every one of you. So, I have 3 separate lids here made for our grolli. Each lid will be scented with a different flavour. We have 1 nutty, 1 savoury, and 1 herbal. So the nutty, we have walnut, a homemade nocino sprayed over the top. For the savoury, we have truffle, tartufo d'alba to be exact. And finally, for the herbal, we have incredible Artemisia from Aosta. Now, we stir our drink down before final service. Finally, we top with a touch of champagne, just for some brightness and some bubbles. Now, not only do we have the 3 lids to customize everyone's service, but on the bottom, I've played around with textures. We have leather for a more smooth, a more creamy ideology when you're drinking the cocktail. We have foam for something a bit more bubbly to connect with your champagne. And on the bottom, we have cork for something a bit more hearty and a bit more rugged. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very proud to present to you the pilgrimage to Bologna. Salud.
Great. So, round of applause for Emilio. Now, next on stage, we do have Liam from Glasgow, representing the bar with his cocktail, Golden Hour, from the Absent Ear. Liam.
Hi everyone, my name is Liam. I work at the Absent Ear, which unfortunately for your livers is situated in Glasgow, and I'm also the second Glaswegian on stage, so I'm going to apologise for that now. Hopefully get you some water after, but do bear with me. So the Absent Ear is all about kind of maximalist serves. We try and share the essence of our favourite, most inspiring tales through the intricacy of cocktail work. And I can think of no better elixir really to work with today than the liquor of virtues, Amaro Montenegro, for that exact reason. So today I'm going to present my cocktail to you, which is Golden Hour. And Golden Hour is it's a cultural moment for me, as well as being an inspiring journey. It's something that can be found almost anywhere in the world, perhaps more an idea than a static point in the day. But it's an idea of a time and place where the day is most beautiful to the mind and soul. It's a point of mindful clarity as well. And it's certainly a time where creativity and inspiration can really be found at its peak. I have no doubt that Stanislaw Kobianchi was present at the golden hours of many people, many places on his vast journeys across the world. The breathtaking sunsets of the North African skyline, for instance, the bustling twilights of China, and the 24-carat coastlines of the Caribbean islands, to name a few. The golden hour can also be epitomised by the entire 8-year journey and process that Stanislaw Kobianchi embarked on, from the very kind of first voyage from Bologna to the final drop of Premio and to the first bottle of Amaro Montenegro 8 years later, at just aged 23. When I think about some of the liquids I was imbibing at age 23, it fills me with dread. So he was obviously a very clever young man. The golden hour can also be epitomised a kind of homage. It's an essence shared not only by Stanislaw Bianchi and everyone that is here today, but by people who appreciate sharing the essence of beauty itself. People who can take a minute from their day and appreciate powerful moments of reflection and clarity from the human journey itself, and something we can toast every time we raise a glass of Amaro Montenegro. So this drink is essentially built on an aperitivo for that reason. Traditionally the most beautiful part of the day in which stories are shared over a bouquet of flavour which inspires the senses to kind of awaken during that point. Makes you really appreciate the kind of the time and place of where you are essentially. Each ingredient has been carefully selected not only to elevate the 6 main flavour profiles found and blended into Amaro Montenegro, but to heighten the senses and create a colourful palette of flavour that entices the mind in the same way as when we look at this 132-year-old hand-designed bottle. From the judge's perspective, ingredients-wise, when I'm talking through them, as you can see everything's bottled, you'll just be tasting from the left-hand side. We start with a powerful base of Amaro Montenegro, apologies. Like any great aperitivo cocktail, Golden Hour requires a strong base of complex flavour and balanced bittersweet palate. 40 botanicals gathered from the far corners of the earth, with a real focus on vanilla, sweet, bitter and dried orange, and somewhat delicate eucalyptus. And each serve you'll be tasting today is 4 parts of Amaro Montenegro. To accentuate the fresh and balsamic flavour blend, we have a Fino sherry. Shout out to the master herbalist Matteo Bonoli, first of all, for this incredibly complex blend and making a liqueur that's kind of so easy to blend into this aperitivo drink. But yeah, I really wanted to start with kind of nutty flavours to accentuate the chocolate and caramel flavours also, as well as the kind of vanilla and rich fruit. And the reason for that being as well is Jerez is a beautiful place, and I really wanted to accentuate the kind of beauty of aperitivo culture, not only in Italy, but in other kind of places as well. And I do believe that Jerez is a place that fully embodies that alongside Amaro Montenegro. So yeah, we have 2 parts per serve for this one. To bring harmony to these strong flavours, we have an acacia honey and macroot lime cordial, which is just your middle glass there. It's a kind of rich, sweet and herbaceous cordial that I've made with a kind of local Glaswegian honey company. And it's kind of to also balance out the kind of spicy and floral flavours that you can also find in the flavour blend of Amaro Montenegro. And to signify the journey that Stanislaw Kobianchi went from Asia, from China to kind of Sri Lanka, and highlight the big, rich flavours that he would have taken in at the time. As a personal touch, we have a bar spoon of heavily peated Scotch also, to complement the vanilla and red spice flavours found in our base. This is more of a kind of personal touch and to put my stamp on the golden hour. There's no better time in the day than piling into the pub and enjoying a dram after a long day's work to kind of self-reflect and chat with your friends, and this is exactly what golden hour is all about, that kind of journey of the day. So highly important, even in the most refined dosage, just as the Premio, 1 drop of Premio per bottle of Amaro Montenegro. Lastly, to complement the warm tropical notes that truly elevate Amaro Montenegro above the rest, we have a biodynamic pecorino from Orsonia. The reason for this is just to symbolise how important the Adriatic coastline is to the story of Amaro Montenegro. Of course, Stanislaw Kobianchi fell in love with Princess Elena of Montenegro, so the Adriatic coastline would have been a kind of coastline that was very familiar to him and perhaps inspired him in that way. And lastly, the cocktail is carbonated as well. The fizz is to signify regality and elegance. After all, what is Amaro Montenegro, if not a love song to a princess? So the bottle is a hand-designed label. I wanted to embody Italian style and culture into this cocktail, and I could think of no better way than to also pay homage to the hand-designed, crafted bottle from start to finish, from the first drop of liquid to the last drop of the bottle. And these will also just be sitting on a little individual piece of art that's been made, inspired by the journey of Stanislaw Kobianchi. And these just get poured into a highball. As I say, the bottle has been carbonated and is quite lively and is also quite boozy, so please do tread carefully. We do have 8 other fantastic drinks to taste today.
Bravo!
As I said, quite lively. It's a meticulous process, but I promise you it is absolutely worth it. Otherwise, my friends lie to me. Also, just as a little garnish for the drink, we have a reduction of the cocktail into isomalt sugar glass with a little bit of edible glitter on the top to signify the journey that each person is on. It's a story that is yet unfinished, and I think that's something that we should all be inspired by. And that is essentially that, guys, golden hour. A story that celebrates the joy of sharing the essence, celebrating a shared moment that can be felt everywhere, over hundreds of years, over thousands of bottles, and to remember that when times get better, sweetness is just around the corner. Thank you.
London, Mia, sharing her essence. All you.
Awesome. Hi guys, I'm Mia. I've been in London for about a year now and I work at the Savoy. It's amazing to meet everyone, but we're all here today to celebrate Stanislaw's journey of what brought him to make Montenegro as we know it today. Now, my journey that really inspired me is one of 2, but the very first one is when I first moved to London a year ago, and then how I also reconnected with my disconnected family of over a decade of not speaking, and really finding myself, and that helping me through my journey of London. So, I bring you all back to when I first moved here at the age of 23. I thought it was going to be a piece of cake. I thought it was going to be really easy, and boy was I wrong. As a lot of us probably know in this room and on the live stream, moving to London is really hard, especially when you're on your own. It can feel so lonely in a whole city full of people. You can feel like you're on your own. I had this amazing sense of community, and I met all of these amazing people, and I was going out and having fun. But there was always this sense looming over me that I didn't really have a home here, that I didn't really have an identity, and I also had no idea what I was going to give to my community and be in my job as a bartender and as a person. So it was almost as if my aunt, who again I hadn't seen in over a decade, knew this. 6 months in, when I was at my lowest point really, I got a message, and she wanted to reconnect with us and reconnect with my family. Now, before I could let the knots in my stomach settle in and the butterflies kick in, I instantly said yes, because I was after that idea of family, that idea of me and trying to find myself. So the day actually arrived, and as usual in Mia fashion, I arrived fashionably late. And I walk up to the front door, and before I can even think about how nervous I am, I can hear laughter. And when I say laughter, I can hear my sisters cackling so loudly that I can hear it through the building, and the belly laughs of my brother and my dad. And that instantly washed away any sense that this would be a stiff meeting with the rest of my family. And then I walked through the door, and I opened the door, and it hit me, this smell of Indian cooking that I hadn't smelled since I was a kid, and it was so comforting. I turn the corner, and I'm in the kitchen, and the kitchen table is covered in plates, bowls, and dishes, wines. My auntie had handmade like rotis, dal, paneer, dahi, everything that I remember as a child. And it filled me with glee. The idea that we were sat around this table celebrating old stories, celebrating new stories, and just catching up and just having a really good time gave me what I was really looking for. It gave me a sense of where I had come from. My aunt has since then been teaching me about Indian culinary arts and what I can bring to the table and how I can bring that into my job. So my cocktail was purely based on this moment, this sense of being this authentic truth that my auntie had given me, the sense of how she hadn't even stepped behind a bar and she taught me about hospitality in half an hour compared to more than I had learned since moving to London. So we're going to start off this drink with 5 ml each of yellow chartreuse. Now, each ingredient that I've chosen not only highlights the amazing flavors behind Montenegro, but also highlights the amazing flavors from my heritage. So you'll get notes of of saffron and honey in the yellow chartreuse, and that really complements one of the main 7 flavor profiles in Montenegro, which is bitter and herbaceous. Then we're going to go on to citrus balsamic, which I made at home. The reason why is because, I don't know if you know this, but in the area of Punjab, which my family comes from, they use a lot of pickling agents, which is really cool in their food, to cut through the richness. So we're going to add in a dash each per drink. The reason why I really wanted to use balsamic vinegar in particular is because, again, there's a flavor note in Montenegro which balances it out and rounds it out to be sweet, bitter, and smooth. And that's balsamic and fresh, so it made perfect sense. Then we're going to go on to another homemade ingredient, and this is going to be 35 ml per serve. Now, this is an apricot yogurt washed white wine. And the reason why I use white wine, well, it was the wine that we were drinking this day. Then apricots, because I followed in Stanislaus' steps of when he was creating Montenegro, he traveled far and wide to find the freshest and best ingredients for his drink. So I really wanted to use something that was in season while I was developing this drink, and apricots were the perfect call. And also they highlight the idea of the sweet and fruity notes that you'll find in Montenegro. Then we have the yogurt, which is a reference to the dahi that we also had at the table, which my aunt also painstakingly slaved over that day. And she's actually given me the recipe, so if any of you want it, just let me know and I'll fill you in on the details. And then we've got the main star of the show, Montenegro. For me, this bottle symbolizes everything about sharing. It's delicious before dinner, after dinner, during dinner. As you can tell, I base most of my decisions around food. So I think it's one of my favorite ingredients to ever use, and I think it's perfect when pairing it when talking about my heritage, because this is something I want to share with people. So we're going to add 35 ml per serve to my cocktail. Now, when I start talking about food, I always think food is better served sharing. I hate cooking for myself. I love cooking for other people way more because it's the idea of community. It's the idea of, again, sharing those stories, everyone being themselves and having something to talk about, which is why I went with a picnic carafe as my vessel of choice. Using something simple rather than a wine carafe means that you can pop it in the fridge, get ready for it when you're having a big dinner party. You can give it to your family, you can give it to your friends, you can even give it as a gift. I mean, if we were still in summer, I'd recommend taking it onto a picnic, but it's a bit colder now, so you do you. But I wanted to keep it nice and simple. Along with keeping it nice and simple, I wanted to use an ingredient that I was already playing around with, which is apricots for my garnish. I didn't want to cause any wastage, so I actually used the apricots that I used in the fat wash, and I carved little halves out of them to be my garnish. Again, like I said, I think of everything as a meal, and I want this drink to be enjoyed before, during, and after dinner, because I think that's when people can be really themselves, and I think that having a really juicy fruit on top of it means that you can have a really nice palate cleanser beforehand. Now, when it comes to the name, I found this really difficult, and I, again, followed in Stanislaus steps. This bottle was never originally called Amaro Montenegro. It was renamed after 11 years after the princess herself, Princess Elena, the philanthropist, the woman known of charity, the woman known of giving, sharing her time, and being a woman of the people. And that for me is my auntie. She gave me exactly what I needed during my journey of moving to London. She gave me a sense of self. She allowed me the option to explore my heritage and give that to other people. And that's what I really wanted to show you in this cocktail, that not only I'm really passionate about what I do, but I'm also really passionate about teaching other people about the flavors. I'm sure that there are a very few handful of people here that have actually tried dahi, but I would love to show you. And also, like I said, she didn't even step foot behind this bar, and yet somehow she properly encapsulated what we're all here to do, and that's to provide a sharing experience, sharing the essence, our authentic selves, our true selves, if you will. So I present to you all the Sunita. Thank you.
Welcome back, all. So we are back on stage, this time from the Loose Cannon Cocktail Bar, Bristol. We do have Joseph.
Hi guys, as you heard, my name is Joseph Miller. I'm from Loose Cannon Cocktail Bar in Bristol. As we came to this competition, we had the idea of a journey. And I have been a very, very lucky bartender and done many journeys in my life. One of the most important journeys that I've ever been on both changed me physically and mentally. And that was when I was 22 years of age, and I was lucky enough to go bartend in Singapore. Singapore, as a lot of people might know, is a beautiful country full of vast cultures, religion, people, atmosphere, parties. And I wanted to bring you on this journey and show you how I changed from a boy to a man. Because this country opened up doors that I would never have seen and would never have understood today, unless it happened. I think I would have still been that 22-year-old at the age that I am now, 30. But I have found that with Amaro Montenegro and the journey that Stanislaus went on was amazing. This journey for me with flavor, and especially going towards Southeast Asia and everything around that area, helped me develop this drink. So without further ado, as this drink takes a little bit of time to make, I'm going to start making it and talk. So with the Amaro Montenegro, I'm going to be, per serve, going to be putting 45 mils into each. And ignore the vibrating shaker, jigger, sorry, because I like to do this when I'm competing. I wanted to emphasize the Amaro the best I could. The Montenegro was there, and I wanted to showcase it in every way, shape, or form. And to start by showcasing this, I'm going to go into my homemade ingredient. My homemade ingredient is a lychee liqueur that has been slow infused with pandan and lemongrass
and then I citrus balanced it towards the end. Why I'm adding this, people would ask. The reason for it is lychee being such a sweet element and almost my sugar element to this drink, but at the same time, the lemongrass and the pandan helping bring forward that warm tropical flavor. I'm going to be putting 45 per measure into each one. And carrying on my story about Singapore, I was lucky enough when I was out there, I met my wife, who opened up the doors to food and flavor. Herself being from a Eurasian family, which means that she has a European background, but a very big Asian background, helped me understand food, flavor, and especially my spice levels. But there will not be any spices in this drink today. The second ingredient that I'm going to be adding is a tea that she introduced to me. A tea that she loves and adores to this day, which is oolong. But when you brew oolong too long, pun intended there, it becomes bitter and sharp. But then she showed me a way that her family and her historical family used to drink it and brew it to have in warm climates. And what I've done is actually taken oolong tea, sat it into a 3-degree water for 48 hours. Doing this is a cold infusion, which brings out a lot more of the rich notes of the oolong. And I'm going to be putting 30 ml per serve into each of this. This is also going to lengthen the drink and showcase the slightly more nutty elements out of the Montenegro. Lastly, I wanted a salty element because, as you probably know, the key elements in Asian cuisine, salty, spicy, sweet. I couldn't make my own, so I had to find my own nori liqueur. So what I'm going to be adding here is 20 mils per serve of the nori liqueur. This is just to give it a little bit of a saline finish and also kind of boost other notes of nuttiness through. And lastly, as a lot of the people in this room, because I know them quite well and I've known them for a while, they would know, I don't know why, but my favorite thing to add to most cocktails is a black walnut bitters. I just love the aromatics that come through with black walnut and everything. So what I'm going to do is put 2 drops per serve into each. And the black walnut, again, as you probably can tell, I've used the word nut a lot. I am a nut fanatic. I love nuts. I love everything to do with nuts. I'm sorry for people that can't have nuts. I feel very bad for you, but I do appreciate it. And I really wanted to bring this warm feeling because, as I was going to say about Southeast Asia, it's warmth, it's family, it's everything. And with that, I'm going to shake it, but not for long. This is going to be a very quick shake. So my journey to Southeast Asia started accidentally and ended with great pleasure, because I came out of Southeast Asia with more knowledge and wealth than I could imagine, and also a wife. With this in mind, the title of this drink was very hard for me to come by because I didn't want to give it no false name and nothing like that. Instead, I wanted you to take you on this journey of in a glass of what I feel like Southeast Asia would be. And this drink is called Our Story, Our Village. With Our Story, Our Village, I wanted the tea to be represented and brought forward with loads of steam, because who doesn't like a bit of theatre? And finally, the garnish of my drink. Again, nori was an element, so nori had to be added. I made a nori leaf. Just please sit on top. Please. There we go. For each of you to try, because this nori leaf is a salty element, but everything in life is good. And I present to you our village, our story.
There you go, we are back! All right, now, next on stage from the Botanist, Leeds, Dominique!
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me down here for the day. My name's Dom, so I work for a New World Trading Company, and one of our main brands is the Botanist, which is kind of all over the country, but I kind of primarily work out of Leeds. But it's, again, absolute pleasure to be down here today with all of you guys. So the drink I'm going to prepare today is called Abundance. It was inspired by when I looked at the brief and it was talking about the sharing success, all this kind of thing. I looked into kind of Italian roots, and the first thing that sprung to mind was kind of the success of the harvest, where kind of traditional people would share the things that they've grown through the year, and the small communities would kind of use those produce, use the products between themselves to be able to kind of just enjoy the produce. Nothing was going to waste. So I've designed my drink around that and the pillars of the Montenegro. So to start off, I've made a orange and lemon oleo. So oranges, lemons, all kind of citrus fruit are really famous in Italy, from Amalfi lemons, blood oranges of Sicily. So I wanted to kind of get that flavour into my drink. So it's got the acidity, but without it being a fresh citrus juice. It gives a bit of extra kind of depth and texture to it as well, and a tiny bit of bitterness. So we've got 10 mils per serve. The next thing that I wanted to do was kind of bring in a bit of seasonality and use figs. So fig is a kind of flavour, again, it kind of grows throughout Italy, primarily in the south, and kind of stretches over east into kind of Turkey and places like that as well. I found when I was doing my research, there's a lot of kind of crossover between the kind of cultures and tradition of Turkey alongside Italy, in terms of like the coffee culture, the kind of fruit and everything that kind of is made. So what I wanted to do was kind of bring it back to being very Italian. So I've infused my figs into a Bianco vermouth. I used Cuccello Bianco vermouth, so it's quite new on the market. And with this, it's got this slightly more kind of warm, kind of tropical kind of flavour to it. So it's got some kind of vanilla undernotes to it to gain that extra little bit of sweetness. So what I did was peeled some fresh figs, blender infused them into this vermouth, and then strained it out. So it kind of had a bit of, it's got a little bit of extra texture to it and a really, really nice colour. But without the kind of graininess that you can get from figs if you're using the fresh fruit. So with this, I have used 15 mils per drink. The next ingredient I've gone with is Muyu jasmine. So the jasmine flower generally doesn't tend to grow in Italy that much. It's more kind of China, Japan area, but there is an ornamental variety of jasmine that is known as Italian jasmine. The reason that I really wanted to use this was the kind of connotations of jasmine in kind of a religious aspect is kind of its passion and love, romance, all that kind of thing. And this kind of speaks back to the origin story of Montenegro. Like the liquid itself was made for Princess Elena of Montenegro. And that kind of romance, it just kind of inspired me to use the jasmine. And the production of this as well is kind of that single essence of one ingredient and then all these other kind of flavors built around it, which I feel kind of mimics how Montenegro is made as well. And again, with this competition, it's sharing the essence. So I thought that was a nice little tie in there. Again, we are using 15 mils each of this one, so 60 in total. And then to finish off, obviously the star of the show is our Amaro Montenegro. With this, obviously it's got all these kind of bitter flavors, herbaceousness, vegetal, citrus. It's got a bit of everything there. So it kind of forms the base of this drink, but it shines through past all of these, but these I feel or kind of complement this base and bring out different aspects of it. So we're going to go with 35 mils each of this one. And then what we're going to do is just give this a quick stir down, and then we will prepare the serve. So with the kind of serve that I wanted to go with in talking about harvest and kind of sharing the wealth of produce, I wanted to kind of get you guys involved as well and make it a bit more interactive in the style of a picnic. So using the leftover juice from my oleosaccharum from the fresh citrus, I've turned this into a curd. And then I've also kind of made some crostini, which is cooked with mandarin infused olive oil, and got some kind of semi-dehydrated figs just to kind of give an extra bit of flavour there. So I've got my little picnic basket here, which will be with you in just 2 seconds. And feel free to just kind of make those up, have a little snack as you go in. Just get this. And this is the abundance.
We're back! Welcome back. Now, congratulations to the first 5 finalists for this the Vero Bartender edition 2022, the UK National. So now, next on stage from the Malt Lounge, London, Matteo.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you to everyone for being here today. A special thanks to Miriam, which has helped me a lot during this competition. I had so many questions for her. And thanks to Montenegro for organizing this amazing day. So sharing the essence through a journey, that's quite a clever topic for a competition, as which better way to sharing the essence than through a journey. And when I read the briefing for it, I already knew that my drink would have been inspired by Japan, as I work in a Japanese place. But I didn't know how to get there, how the journey would have been. And so I decided to tell you the story of how do I get to work in a Japanese place. So this is a journey through my career, which has as a final destination, Japan. And to start with, I'm an Italian bartender in London, which is quite unusual, right? I decided to represent those 2 countries. First of all, using Montenegro for my Italian roots, one of the most famous Amaro brew. And we're putting 60 ml of this, 30 ml each cocktail. And then, representing the UK, we obviously have gin, as no one loves spirit like British love their gin. And we're going to pour 40 ml of this, 20 ml each drink. There you go. And then we start with the ingredient that represent pieces of my career. And to start with, we have a pickled orange juice, which is inspired by one of the first bars where I worked here in London, which is the Gibson. The Gibson has been a nice experience for me, probably one of the most exciting experience of my life as a bar. And I'm using this because, you know, orange, the flavor of orange works quite well with Montenegro. And I'm pouring 15 ml of this, sorry, 30 ml, 15 each cocktail. And then we have one of the ingredients which is probably the most precious to me, umeshu, because in the Malt, the place where I'm working right now, we have this kind of routine where for everything that happens, if you go shortlisted for something, if someone enters a competition, we do have a little toast with this amazing liquor. It's there just to balance it up, the pickle juice, and give a little fruity note to the drink. And I'm going to pour 20 ml of this, 10 ml each drink. And the last ingredient of my cocktail, which I kept in the fridge until last minute, is a sparkling sake. Because while talking about Japan, sake must be mentioned. It's their alcoholic beverage, the most famous alcoholic beverage, and is their status symbol around the world. I'm going to pour 30 ml each drink of this. I'm going to go straight into the sake jar. So another reason why I'm using the sparkling sake is because on my very first competition at the beginning of this year, I entered with a drink sake based. And I want to represent that too because it's quite a milestone for me and my career. So we're going to have a quick shake. So I decided to serve my drink in a sharing sake service. As I just said, sake is the essence of Japan, and we're here today for sharing the essence. So I thought that was the best way to do it. So the final service is going to be on a piece of wood with some sake shot glasses. And as a garnish, we have a bit of azuki bean, which is there to help clean your palate before the drinks. So that's my drink, Monte Fuji, Kanpai. Should I bring it to that one? Oh.
Amaro.
We are live again. There you go. So congratulations, well done, Matteo, previous competitor. Now we have on stage from Milk Thistle, Bristol, Lorenzo.
Hi everybody. First of all, I want to thank all the judges to give me this huge opportunity. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited. My name is Lorenzo, but you guys can call me Enzo or Buffalo. I got a few different names and nicknames. You guys can call me however you want. I'm from Milk Thistle, Bristol, as he previously mentioned, and today I'm going to present and I'm going to show you some of my Italian true sharing essence. I'm going to present my 6 o'clock drink. Why 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock is when usually in Italy we consume the aperitivo. around 6 p.m. So I got inspired from that. My journey got inspired from my family. So the journey had to be physical or like mental, or like I inspired this journey from a lifetime journey. So I inspired from my roots, from my heritage. So from my mother's side, from Sardinia, from my father's side, from Sicily. So first thing first, but we're gonna talk about the protagonista of the day, the show, Amaro Montenegro, with lovely 40 botanicals. I love how Stanislao Cobianchi was a crazy visionary. So such a I am when I jump behind the bar, and I love mix all the ingredients that I have behind me in the back bar. I quite see myself like Stanislao Cobianchi a little bit. So when this competition came out, I was like, this might be the right thing for me. And to be honest with you, this is my first comp ever. So I feel quite excited about it. So let's get back to 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock because when we do aperitivo, and actually even before becoming a bartender, with my friends, with my lads, I was doing when we were going out and consuming aperitivo. I was actually already drinking Amaro Montenegro and tonic, and I didn't even know what Amaro Montenegro was, even before becoming a bartender. So then after a few years, came in England roughly 6 years ago, and I discovered what Amaro Montenegro is, how to use it, in which, it's so versatile, you can use it in so many different ways. So we're gonna go and pour 40 ml each serve. And I love how Amaro Montenegro is a perfect balance between the bitter and the sweet and the citrusy. I love the dried orange, I love the nutmeg, the clove, I love all of it. So that's why, to enhance all the flavor, I made a homemade rosemary olive oil fat wash rye whiskey. So why rosemary? Rosemary brings back a lot of memories when I used to have a lunch on a Sunday with my father, and my father used to cook this dish, and it was loaded on the rosemary. We had a huge plants outside the garden, and it was called chicken romana. So it was loaded on rosemary, and the smell just brings back and takes a lot of all the botanicals, which I'm just gonna mention: cloves and nutmeg and also dried orange and also oregano, quite Italian. And so we're gonna go for 30 ml each serve. So last but not least, we got the other side of my family, the Sardinia side. I didn't mention that this was my Sicilian side, but yeah, it is, because indeed one of the best rosemary comes from Sicily, because of the weather, because of the sun, because it always eats in there. It's always quite warm, even in winter. My other side is the Sardinian side. So I made a white wine reduction from a Vermentino di Sardegna. Then I reducted it, and I added sugar and acid. So I made a reduction, cordial reduction. So this means a lot to me, because it reminds me when I used to go to the vineyards with my grandmother. We used to water the plants to get it ready for the autumn. So we were caring of those old plants. And we also were drinking a lot of this wine with my uncles, with my aunties. So it was quite, aperitivo time when it was coming around that before dinner. So as a last ingredient, I got a couple of dashes of saline, just to enhance the flavor, boost up the flavor, give the savoriness, and to get all the three ingredients all together, and to close the circle, basically. Cool. We're gonna ice it up. And by the time these self-diluted, I can speak about my vessel. My vessel is basically, this is like a little oil and balsamic vinegar dispenser. So you can roughly find this in almost in every house in Italy. So that's why as soon as I saw this vessel, I was like, this matches perfectly for me. And inside there, you're going to find some rosemary olive oil infused at 60 degrees in a sous vide for 24 hours, which is the one that I fat wash the rye. And this is just the same oil that you're going to find in the bottom of the olives. And we go to stir down. Anyway, here's my 6 o'clock. Thank you very much.
The 40 Botanic.
There you go, we are back. So congratulations. So well done to the previous competitors, Lorenzo. Now we are with Joshua from Science Industry, Manchester.
Hello everyone. Whoa, nice welcome. It's amazing to be down in London. If you told me I'd be here, like 3 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. First of all, let's just say, with all these bottles that I've got lined up here, it kind of feels like I'm trying to mix a potion of some kind, which when you're talking about Montenegro, kind of makes sense, right? The bottle was originally developed to look like it was based around alchemy. And if anything, we might be the alchemists of the modern day. So this had to be inspired by a journey. The journey I decided to go for was the journey of realizing this is what you want to do as a career, because sometimes that's a little bit difficult and there is a little bit of stigma around it. And more so, the little journeys in that inspire you and help you to develop. So with my drink today, all I'm aiming to do is heighten the flavor of Montenegro and kind of bring out some of the notes. We're going to concentrate on 3 out of the possible 6 aromatic notes, and they will be fresh and balsamic, fruity and sweet, and bitter and herbaceous. So to start off, we've got Montenegro. Story behind Montenegro. So when I first started bartending, I could not make a daiquiri. I got the job on the bar I used to work at purely because I basically begged. They know, we're just go call it like we see. And then I found a little bar upstairs called Science and Industry where I currently work. I went up there and tasted Amaro Montenegro for the first time, and that's how I knew that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Sacked off an economics degree for it, so that's dedication right there. So we're just going to put 40 mils in each cocktail. Nice and Montenegro heavy, just the way we like it. Can't complain, right? So the second ingredient we're going for is the gin. So this gin I'm specifically using because it uses 2 different types of juniper, and the juniper is going to help to kind of accent and really bring out the flavor of the orange notes inside the Montenegro. So in here we're just going to pour 20 per cocktail. This is also going to help bring some more herbaceousness as well, kind of bulk it out a little bit. Next up, we have a strawberry shrub. So I decided to go for a strawberry and balsamic shrub. Strawberry and balsamic vinegar share a common ester, which makes them ideal for pairing. And it's actually when I was in a little bar called Blinker. I talked to Dan Berger, and he taught me the best way, in my opinion, to make a shrub, which is you double up the amount of fruit you're using, because it's super easy to kind of lose the flavour of the fruit in a shrub. So just balsamic vinegar, strawberries, and sugar. I also want to use strawberries because A, they're in season right now, but they're coming to the end of the season, so let's try and get our use out of them while we can. The ones I used were actually the ones that were going out of date, so I rescued them from the bin, which is always nice. 20 per cocktail, by the way, guys. Yeah, should probably put that in there. And also, strawberries actually hold a little bit of a personal place in my heart. When I was growing up, my granddad used to have an allotment, and in that allotment, he grew all kinds of things, but the one that I distinctly remember was strawberries. And I remember going down to that allotment, picking the strawberries with him, and then giving it away to the neighbours or whoever really wanted them. An incredibly kind and generous man. Just got to neaten this up a little bit here. Next up, we have absinthe. So absinthe is a little bit of an unusual one. Again, it's really going to help to try and bring out the herbaceousness of the drink. And yeah, it's going to bring out the herbaceousness of the drink. It's also going to kind of extend the cocktail a little bit. The absinthe is going to come in at the end and kind of just give you a little bit of that factor that goes, yeah, you know what, that's delicious. So it's just 5 per cocktail. Any more than that, and I think we'd probably be pushing it a little bit, and we'd basically be drinking a glass of absinthe. And we don't want that. So I'm going to stir this cocktail down now before I tell you about the final ingredient that we're adding. So this drink is called Across the Pennines, and that's because the drink is really inspired by bars I visited around the Pennines when I was developing. And I've actually brought coasters from all of them. From present company, we have the relaxed atmosphere and the accessible drinks that help bring everyone into our community. From below stairs, in Leeds, we have just kind of the thirst for knowledge. I remember hearing a story once about a bartender at below stairs that extracted the seeds out of a strawberry to see what they tasted like. Fun fact, apparently they taste like watermelon. Science and industry, obviously where it all started, and Blinker, the place that really inspired my love of shrubs. Just got to stir these. Just going to grab a little straw. Remember, always taste your drinks. Delicious. And then I've prepared my highballs over here. We're using column ice. It's just going to make sure that the drink doesn't get diluted because this is intended to be a little summer sipper. Mostly inspired by the fact that the heat wave we've been having in the UK is starting to get, we're looking for something to really cool us down now. I'm not sure about how it's been down in London, but up north it's definitely been a difficult one. So what I like to do when I'm making long drinks is, if they have to be served over 2 vessels, I like to serve half out of each one. This just helps keep everything a little bit more consistent. And then, for the final ingredient, in here we have my tea soda. So in here we have black tea, Lapsang Souchong, and rose hips and cucumber. So it just helps bring a little bit of freshness to the drink as well. Just go decant this into our little teapot here. Doesn't go on there. And then we can just top them up on here. And then, wanting to keep everything sustainable, for garnish, I decided to use the raspberry that we made for the shrub and turn them into little strawberry crisps as well. A little bit difficult to get off. They have been traveling from Manchester, so. And then what would strawberries be without the cream? So what I've done is I've made us some Amaro Montenegro cream. So feel free to take your strawberry crisp and dip it in the cream and let me know what you think. These are bigger tweezers than I am used to. And lastly, just pop the Montenegro cream that's been cooling in here in this little container. And that's my drink, a drink inspired by journeys to bars across the Pennines. Thank you very much.
We are back on stage for the Vero Bartender 2022 National UK Final. On stage from the Gannet restaurant in Glasgow, Grant.
Hello, so my name's Grant Caulfield. I come from Glasgow. I work at the Gannet restaurant. We are specialised in foraged and sustainable cocktails, and I want to tell you a story about my journey in North America, going to Canada and how that affected my journey through my life behind the bar. So it really all started when I was in the US. My visa was running out. My friend Rory said to me, come up to Canada, spend Christmas with me in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is in the absolute middle of nowhere. I said, cool. I had to leave before him, went up, put me in touch with a guy called Jeff, an older guy living in this town called Wishart, old kind of abandoned railroad town of a population that used to be about 2,000, reduced to about 60. So temperatures get to about -40 at times there, really, really remote. And so Jeff had built his own house there with his wife Tara, his 3 daughters, Izzo, Ruby and Freya. And I came and they made quite a humble living from, you know, making honey, growing vegetables, they've raised chickens, and a few other things like Tara making clothes and yeah, little bits and bobs, kind of homesteaders. So I came up and for the few weeks I was there, helped them like pulling up carrots, planting garlic, feeding the chickens and getting up in the middle of midnight to save the cabbages and sprouts from the frost coming. And it was all really cool, yeah. But the first job I had there was to pull up the carrots, so it's a pretty important ingredient for me for this, and it really pairs really well with Amaro Montenegro, with the coriander seed, orange peels, and it's 12.5 per drink. So yeah, after those few weeks it turned out that Rory couldn't make it due to problems with his getting a green card with his marriage and all this, and so there I am stranded in -40 degrees bloody Saskatchewan, middle of Canada, nowhere. Next to Christmas time I can't get a flight home, but I wasn't really stranded because my hosts Jeff and Tara were so kind and invited me to spend Christmas with them. So it was great. I stayed with them, worked with Jeff, became quite close with him. We would you know, do all the farm work. We end of the day we'd drink whiskey, smoke his homegrown tobacco. We even went hunting together. I introduced him to his first Negroni, and it was just yeah, really cool. But unfortunately Jeff had to leave because his mother was sick, and put me in charge of like taking care of the girls, chopping the wood, fighting off the bears and all that kind of stuff. And in that time I spent more time with his wife Tara, and she showed me all about how they would preserve their food over the winter. They didn't really go to supermarkets, they grew all their own food, very kind of off-grid, and they would do lots of pickling and lacto-fermentation from their kind of Ukrainian heritage. So the first ingredient that kind of really goes with the kind of balsamic notes of Amaro Montenegro is white balsamic. It's called white condimento, using only Trebbiano grapes, kind of less charred in barrels, and it's not caramelized like regular balsamic. It's only 3 mils per cocktail, and this just really has some more fruit-forward vinegar. And it's just, I think it works more with the profile of this drink than regular balsamic. Next is lacto-lime tincture. I use this quite a lot. As it's kind of sustainable in the bar, I don't use much citrus juice in the bar. So it's basically how you would make a sauerkraut, only with the balled limes. I do make an oleosaccharum from the peel, but I don't use the juice. So I might give it to the bar next door, but if I don't, 2% of its weight in salt. Ferment it for about 4 weeks, dehydrate it, neutral spirit, and use that as like a flavouring, and that just kind of adds this kind of nice candied lime flavour, extraction of lactic acid, and this is about 2 mils per drink. And just kind of like boosting that kind of citrusy flavour from Amaro Montenegro. Now, when Christmas finally came around, in this cold town, you have to walk just 5 minutes where everyone kind of comes together and brings all their own dishes, and even just walking over, the ice is freezing on your eyelashes, and everyone gets their dishes together. It's very cosy, playing shuffleboard and whatever. There's only about 60 people, but they introduced me to what was one of my favourite desserts, which is Saskatoon berry pie. Saskatoon berries are very like intense little blueberries, and they foraged for them, which I was really amazed at, and it was such a widely done thing there. So although I couldn't get Saskatoon berries, I have Scottish blaeberries here, which when I first had them really amazed me because they were just like Saskatoon berries with that kind of intense kind of blueberry flavour. They are European blueberries. What you're used to would be North American blueberries. And so I probably wouldn't have discovered this if it wasn't for the fact that I'd had those Saskatoon berries. So you know, I really I'm glad to have been able to find it. And this is 25 mils per drink. Just under to get me on the plane. Luckily I got more. Okay, next, finally, Amaro Montenegro. You know, Stanislaw Kobianki travelled all around the world to bring so many influence back to his hometown, and these are, I guess, this is the story of what influences I brought back to from my travels. And it's 35 per drink. There we are. Just get shaken. Okay. So I really respect Jeff and Tara and what they were able to do in the middle of nowhere in Canada. And we talk about the sharing of the essence of success, and for me the epitome of success is to go out into the middle of no man's land, build your own house and care for all your family completely off grid. I really respect that, and you know, I hope this is a worthy ode to my very generous Canadian hosts. And so it's served from a little watering can, kind of to like reference to the fact that the kind of labour that went into the farm work I had with Jeff, and kind of symbol of kind of growth and let's see. Okay, and then just for garnish, we have some little kind of flowers made from carrots, half of which are pickled in white balsamic, and the other sat in the blaeberry liqueur. Okay, and there we have it, an ode to Jeff and Tara. The drink's Jeff and Tara. Cheers.
And we are back! Again, well done to the previous competitors, Grant. Now, on stage, the last of the 10 finalists for the Vero Bartender competition. We do have Katie from the couch in Birmingham.
The pressure of going last, I'm very excited. Okay, so every competition that I do, I seem to link it back to Sturchley. So the most important thing to me is my neighbourhood and where me and my partner Jacob set up our bar. So it's like southwest of Birmingham, and it's got so much history. And when we went through Vero Bartender, it was like something true to me. Something true to me is my neighbourhood, and getting one flavour which is really authentic and making it really pop in a drink. So I've got Sturchley, going from incredible woman to incredible woman. So Mary Cottrell, who is a Labour councillor from 1902, to our current councillor, again Labour councillor, who's Mary Locke, and going through their journey of how the neighbourhood has grown and why I love it. So, I love raspberries. Let's start there. Summer raspberries are incredible. We've just gone into autumn. In Sturchley, we've got like 5 parks that surround us, so I can actually go out and forage, and no one tells you off when you do. It's what everyone does. So I went out and grabbed as much as I could, and when I wanted to do a big batch of punch, I actually went to my local grocers, which is called Ward's. So in everything that we make, I just really want to use locality as much as possible, use my surroundings, as little less travel as possible. So starting with raspberries, that is linking into the seasonality, something I can find nearby, something in my neighbourhood that I love. And then the reason I've actually gone for a milk punch is because Mary Cottrell, when she was the first female Labour councillor in our city, I think in the Midlands, but I'm not completely sure, but she was also the first female board member of Tasco's. So you might hear me say cooperative quite a bit. I know we've got Co-op Superstore, but cooperative back in the day was actually a great way to build a neighbourhood, and Sturchley wouldn't be there if it wasn't for them. So she helped open our first bakery, our first dairy stop, and then obviously the superstores that followed from there on. She's got a blue plaque where the bakery used to be in Sturchley, so her name is always there to see. And the reason I want to do a milk punch for her is because when she first went into council, she upped the milk rations, the wartime milk rations for infants and mothers. So as soon as she started, she didn't waste any time, and she was looking after other women and making sure she was making the community a better place, seeing where it's needed and taking action. So the cream, which binds all of my flavours together and texture, that's for Mary Cottrell. The raspberries for locality in Sturchley. And then I've also made a fig cordial, which is part of my punch. So I didn't choose fig because it's like indigenous to Sturchley. We know it's not. But every single neighbour 8 doors down and 8 doors down has so many fig trees. I think everyone's obsessed. So I just picked all the leaves, dried them out, made a nice cordial, and just seasoned it with tartaric acid, just 2%, because it helps the splitting process anyway. When I first did the punch, I did it old school, so I used heat and acid to split and then took it through a coffee filter. But Birmingham is very much about helping one another and supporting one another, and my old bartender, Tommy Matthews, has just gone to open his new bar. Hi, Tommy. Passing Fancies. So he is fancy and he's got a centrifuge, and I've never used one before, so I rolled up the other day. He's only got 4 days till he opens, and I was just like, hi, I'm going to use your kit, thank you. So he took me through the process, And I think the most important thing about my punch is that as soon as I made the Amaro, the base and the Hero is that I don't lose it. I really want that dark cherry note. I want the herbaceous of oregano. I want the like spicy clove and everything to come through. I want the raspberry to be completely authentic. And when you do make a milk punch the classic way, you do sometimes add a bit more sugar than you want to, or a bit more acid than you want to get the right split. So I just wanted to extract all of the raspberry juice, which is the best thing for the centrifuge. It wasn't to clarify. I still then put it through a coffee filter afterwards, but then I was left with the curd and the flesh, made my whole, poured out the whole punch. Really delicious, like raspberry juice all the way through. Amaro's punching through. The fig is like a really undertone of coconut. And then obviously, I took the curds and the flesh. I actually gave it to my neighbor. She's making ice cream. So either I lose and there's like a picture of me crying eating ice cream tomorrow, or there's a really happy version of me eating ice cream tomorrow from the leftover raspberry curds. So with this drink, the most important thing was that I like to repurpose and reuse a lot. So my serving vessel is the Amaro Montenegro bottle. It's distinctive shape. It's so much to do with the brand. It's also named after, Princess Selena, and I want to talk about women of Sturchley, so it's binding all those women and their story together in one drink. So I've made this a really simple serve to make, hence why I've just kind of been chatting like this for a little while. I'm going to grab my glasses. Because if it's going to be a sharer, I don't want it to be too complicated. I don't want too much shaking or stirring. So the punch, you just pour 60 ml over, and then, that's something exciting for next, sorry. So 60 ml in each punch. Because I'm not stirring or anything, you don't have to woo, but if you want to, you could woo now. You kind of have to woo for a while though. Something I did last time, again, I did like a really good because it's got a screw cap. So I'm just going to do 20 ml. I wouldn't usually use a jigger, but the last time I did this, I did overpour a little bit, so I am going to use my jigger. I hope you don't judge me. So 20 ml in each drink. Again, optional if you want to do that brummy woo again. It's okay, I'll let you off it. Okay. We've got there. So just a quick stir, because I don't want you to sip and just get the Prosecco. I want it all to run through. And then all we've got left is my garnish. So the Prosecco and my garnish is to tie in the Italian influence. Everything else is Sturchley, but we are working with Montenegro Amaro, and I want it to be evident in my drink. So I've made a salt and pepper taralino for each drink. A batch of taralini, a single taralino. I had to teach myself that earlier. So there we go. You can eat it in one, but I think a little bite and a sip just works really well. So this is my drink, 10 Acres Punch. little curvy here.
We are in again! Hey! Congratulations! So, look at these beautiful faces. One of them will represent the UK at the global stage for the Vero Bartender in Italy. This year, 2022, congratulations again. Well done, each one of you. We're going to announce the winner at 9:15 on class social media. So stay tuned and we'll see you later.